Well, hey guys. So I am in the last semester of my NP, my PMHNP program, and been a few weeks since I've done a video. I've been way busier with this than I really thought I would be. So I thought I would give you kind of a week in the life of what is going on here in my last semester with my clinical rotations, with getting my Capstone project completed. So hang on and you'll get to see what a week is in this very busy semester. Hey, my name is Rick. I'm a registered nurse and an NP student. I'm in a psychiatric nurse practitioner program and in my last semester. And in this semester, I have two classes. If you want to call clinical rotations a class, and it's what it's considered. And I also have a Capstone class, and Capstone is kind of like a master's thesis type of project that you have to put together. So today is Tuesday, and I am traveling to one of two of my clinical sites. Now today's a little bit different. Normally I would be traveling to my clinical site that is at a rural health clinic. It takes about an hour to get there. But my other clinical site is a government facility, and in the great efficiency of government bureaucracy, I have to make an unscheduled stop there. So I'm actually going in the opposite direction that I would go for my clinical site normally today. And I've got to drive to downtown. It's about 7 o'clock in the morning, so it will be heavy traffic. It's going to take me 50 minutes or so to get there. And here's why this is a problem. First of all, in your clinical rotations, I assume this is true for most programs, you have to have a certain number of patient encounters and a certain number of clinical hours. So for my last semester here, I have to have 180 patient encounters, and I have to have 240 clinical hours. This is the most encounters and most hours that I've had to have in each semester, and it kind of builds in each semester of your clinical rotations. So what makes today a problem is that I was scheduled to be at the rural health clinic. We had, I think, 11 patients on the schedule today. Probably would have spent about 9 to 9.5 hours there, and would have had 9 to 11 patient encounters. So instead, I've got to go downtown to the other clinical site and fix a problem that IT can't seem to fix. And because it's a government site, I have to be on site, only on their computers, only in their network, in order for IT to resolve this problem. And if they don't, it creates a whole host of problems for my preceptor there. So I am going to get some clinical hours, because these will count towards my clinical hours. I'll be signing off on documentation and things, but I won't get any patient encounters. So that's a problem, because I think it'll be easier this semester for me to get patient encounters, easier this semester to get clinical hours than it will be to get patient encounters. So just to give a little insight, at this clinical site, this government site, I'm allowed to sign off on documentation. And I have to have a certain code to put my signature in. And whatever code they gave me doesn't work. So I've spent 2 days at this site over the last couple of weeks with my preceptor, signing off on all the patient notes that I've made. And then yesterday I get a frantic email from my student coordinator there that you got to sign off on all these notes. And I said, well, if IT could get their act straight, I would sign off on them. Well, I find out that if I don't get down there today and get this figured out and sign off on these notes, they're going to make my preceptor go in and delete all of my notes and then retype them all back in under her name into the patient record. Now, I get that we have to have accurate records. I get that they have their protocols and everything. But to me, that is a colossal waste of time for my preceptor. And this is something that you've got to keep in mind when you're doing your clinicals. Your preceptor is not a teacher. Your preceptor is not a professor. This is a person that is allowing you to come in and spend time with them at their full-time job. You are intersecting with their livelihood. Now, I know that they have a servant's mind because they're letting you do this, but at the same time, this is their job. And you don't want to create extra burdens for your preceptors. Now, will she do that? Will she go through and retype all those notes? Absolutely. But at the same time, why should she? She's doing me a favor by being a preceptor, and I don't want her to have to go through this. So I am taking time from my other clinical site to go down and fix this problem. Fortunately, I have a great preceptor at both sites. And at the rural health clinic where I'm supposed to be today, very understanding. In fact, she will probably make time later this week for me to join her on some virtual calls to get extra patient encounters that I'm going to miss today. So the whole point of this is to, one, tell you that these are the kinds of things you've got to plan for when you're doing your clinical rotations, which is why I think it's really important to cut back on work hours if you can. Because if I was working a full-time job and had to do a shift today, there's no way I could be doing this. So I want you to realize that it's not just about showing up at your clinical site. There is a lot of stuff that goes on, a lot of administrative stuff that goes on behind the scenes in order to make it work. And if you don't plan for that, you could have a lot of trouble getting your clinicals done. All right, so I'm about to get into some heavy traffic here, and I will touch base with you here again later today to give you another glimpse into how this Tuesday is going for me in a kind of an unusual clinical day. Okay, well, I got that mess taken care of. Now I'm going to start about an hour and a half drive to get to my other clinical site for the clinical I was supposed to be at today. I was thinking that this government organization might be a great place for a job when I graduate, but I don't know if I'm going to have the patience for a government organization and the bureaucracy that's involved. All right, well, I made it to my second clinical site now. I'm getting ready to go in and start seeing patients. Be here till about 4 o'clock. It's about a quarter after 10 now in the morning, so not the most productive clinical day. I've spent almost 2 hours in the car just getting from one site to the other. But hey, it gave me a chance to listen to the new Scorpions playlist I found on Spotify. And I haven't heard a lot of those songs in a long time, so I guess I put the time to good use. But anyway, I'll talk to you after I get finished with today's clinical and give you a little debrief on how that went. Hey, so I just finished up my clinical day here at the Rural Health Clinic. It was not a great day in terms of, I guess, patient encounters. I missed most of the patients this morning because of the drive I had to make to the other site and then drive out here. We had some cancellations today. I had one patient that did not want me to be in the appointment. This sometimes happens. Sometimes patients just don't want a student in the appointment, particularly when they're talking about some sensitive psychiatric issues. This particular patient was a young lady who had quite a bit of sexual trauma in her past, and she was just more comfortable with a female provider, which my preceptor is. Totally understandable. Not the first time that's happened, and it will happen to you as well. When you're on your clinical rotations, there's just going to be some patients that don't want a student in the room with them, so be prepared for that. That's why you've got to plan your clinical rotations carefully. You've got to know where you stand in terms of patient encounters and hours, really from a week-to-week basis, so you can adjust. So I'm going to drive home takes me about an hour to get home from here. I'll get home, have some dinner, and then I'm going to input these patients into my clinical record keeping that I have to do for the school. That'll take just a few minutes because I didn't have that many today. And then tomorrow is a study day, and I mean that by one, I'm studying for a big comprehensive exam that we have coming, and then I'm also going to be doing a lot of writing, and I'm going to go over more details tomorrow in a video about the Capstone project that we're doing and kind of what's involved with that, so you have a good look at that. All right, so I will see you tomorrow in the next portion of this video. Okay, well, here it is Wednesday, and I just spent this morning doing a few things. One, I had to finish inputting patients' records and information, my notes and that's required by the school into the system this morning. So that took me about, 30 minutes or so to take care of that. Then I spent the next 3 hours working on this Capstone project, and I promise you that today we'll get into a little bit more of that. Today's not technically a clinical day, but there is some clinical activities that I'm going to have to take care of. I'll get to that here in just a moment. But let me kind of talk about this Capstone project for a minute, because it's a fairly significant portion of my grade for this semester. It's a definite requirement to pass the program, and it is something that you're probably going to come up against as well when you are doing your program. So the Capstone project, and I think I've said this before, is kind of the equivalent in a master's program to the master's thesis. In our program, the Capstone project is a quality it is a research study that you have to design and prepare. It's not something that's actually going to be implemented, although it could be. We're doing all the steps that you would to design a research study, but it's not designed specifically to be implemented after it's done. It's really about the design. We began the Capstone project over a year ago. We had a class, this is the fall semester. Last fall semester, we had a class called Scientific Inquiry. And I'm reasonably sure most nurse practitioner programs will have a class like this. In that class, we began the research and the design of our Capstone project. I wrote, I think it was about 20-page research proposal. And in the Capstone class that I'm taking this semester, this is a proposal that has to be fleshed out into a full research program. So let me show you what those parts look like, how it's graded, and what the school is looking for us to complete at the end of it. All right, so this piece here, this slide that you're looking at comes from the introductory module for my Capstone class in my program. And this is just really a great overview of exactly what happens in the Capstone. And essentially what we're doing in this is I've defined a research project. 1 year ago, I made a proposal of what the project was like. That was approved. So now I'm going to fully develop that project into a manuscript. And each manuscript will have these 4 chapters: an introduction, a literature review, a chapter describing the research methodology and how the different interventions will be applied and what reporting will be done for the findings, and then a discussion about what is currently known regarding the research question and what is not known, and then make recommendations. Additionally, there is a professional poster. I don't have a whole lot of details on that. I just haven't looked into it that much this early in the semester. But that also goes along with it and describes the project. So what I'm doing right now, and this week, I am working on completing this very first chapter here, this introduction chapter. And to give you an example, let me see if I can go over to it. This is, some of the writing that I've already done regarding the introduction chapter. They're asking for this is an outline, an introductory outline. They're asking for 4 to 5 pages. Right now, mine is about 10 pages long, so I have way too much in here. So I'm going to have to start editing this and cutting this down. But that's pretty much what the Capstone project is about. every 2 weeks we'll be turning in one of these different chapters. So this week it's the introduction and the outline that we're doing. The literature review will be one that I have to flesh out over the next month. Then the research methodology and all that. That will all be assembled into a manuscript. And again, I'm guessing it's going to be about 30 pages long. That receives a grade, and each one of these pieces receives a grade as you move through the program, and then this poster at the end. It's interesting, but my gosh, it takes a lot of time. It has a lot of, it's just a lot of writing, and there's no way around it. You have to know how to do research. So the scientific inquiry class we had a year ago, where this actually started, was very helpful. And our professor for this particular class has been extremely helpful as well. I think in my program, they genuinely want you to do a good job. They genuinely want everyone to pass the program and graduate and be ready for your boards. So just wanted to give you this kind of overview of what is going on in the Capstone project. Every week I'll be working on one piece of this. In fact, every day probably. I try to set aside at least 1 hour every day to do the research or writing for this, and that's a part of it. All right, so that's the Capstone project. Takes a lot of time, a lot of writing, and that's, I spent 3 hours just working on the outline portion of it this morning. It's due in a few days. I just want to knock it out and get it done. I will also spend just a little bit of time studying for that comprehensive exam that I was telling you about. Now, tomorrow is a clinical day, Thursday. I will be at the hospital that I was at yesterday taking care of that big technical issue. So today I have to go back to that hospital and look up all the patients that we have scheduled for tomorrow. I'm going to make notes about them because I will be required to do the documentation for those patients as well as conduct each of the patient appointments. So this is not necessary. I mean, it's not a requirement. I think a lot of students do this, but you may be in a situation where you can't. You just don't have the access to it. But I like to go and look at the patients, look at their background, their history, get an idea of what's happening with the patient, and start to think about, all right, what would I do if the patient has not improved since the last time they visited with the psychiatric provider? What would I change? Where could the medication go? I want to get an idea of that. I have a brand new patient who is going to be coming in tomorrow, so I want to look at that patient's medical history as well as any therapy history that they've had, so that I have an idea of what's happening with them and begin to start thinking about how that appointment's going to go and how I might treat that patient. So that's going to take me, I guess, a couple of hours this afternoon. I'll be leaving here in just a few minutes, try to get back before the rush hour traffic gets in, and then we'll hit the Capstone project again. I want to knock this outline out today so that I have the next week to really focus and study on that big comprehensive exam I've got coming up. All right, well, I have finished up here at the hospital, got a review done of all of my patients for tomorrow. Got some interesting ones. So unfortunately, because of HIPAA and privacy, I really can't share a whole lot of details about them in any of these videos. But I know it'd be interesting if I could. But this is something we all have to work with. So I'm getting ready to drive back home. It's about a half hour to get from here near downtown back to my home. And then we'll be back into the Capstone project for a couple of hours. And then I'll probably knock off after that as far as nurse practitioner stuff is going. I do have a few things to get ready for the clinical day tomorrow here at the hospital, and we'll check in then. All right, so it's about 10 after 5 on Thursday afternoon. Just finished my clinical day at the hospital. It was a great day. I had some very interesting patients. It's a little different dynamic. It's all virtual. So I'm here at the hospital. My preceptor works virtual from her home, and then our patient is virtual as well. So usually during the appointment, my preceptor and I are messaging each other based on what the patient says. She may say,
ask about this, or I may be saying, I'm thinking about this medication, because I don't want to make a medication recommendation and then she has to reverse it, or it's not congruent with whatever ongoing plan that she has going. And that's something to remember when you're in clinicals. These are your preceptor's patients. These are people that your preceptor has a long-standing, oftentimes, a long-standing relationship with, and you don't want to take too many liberties, I guess is the best way to put it. So I'm very cognizant of how I'm presenting myself. I'm very aware of what I am saying so that I don't step on her toes or anything like that. I mean, we're not walking on eggshells or anything like that. It's just something you have to be aware of. So we had about 10 patients today. Usually we spend a half an hour with an existing patient or an established patient, and then we'll spend an hour with a new patient. We did have one new patient today. So I'm going to get ready to drive home in the glorious rush hour traffic, and then have some dinner. And then tonight I will start to input all of the patient notes that I took today into my school's system that accounts for my clinical hours. And then I will probably continue to work an hour or so on that capstone outline I was telling you about yesterday. All right. So that's it for Thursday. Big clinical day is fairly typical of what my clinicals are like. And, if you got any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions. Just put them in the comments and I will respond to them. And then we'll touch base tomorrow on some of the studying and plan I have for getting some things done. All right. Talk to you then.
Okay, guys, so here it is, almost 1 o'clock on Friday afternoon. As I mentioned yesterday, today is not a clinical day. It is just what I call a study day, which means I've got to focus on things outside of clinical. So this morning, I spent most of my time finishing that outline that I have to turn in for my capstone project. We talked about that a couple of days ago. That outline was due or is due on Sunday. It's a couple of days from now. But I wanted to get it out of the way because I have that comprehensive exam that is going to have to be done on next Wednesday. So really, I only have about 3.5 days now to study and get prepared for that. And I say 3.5 days. Yes, it is Friday. I'll spend the rest of the afternoon studying for that. I use, in case you're wondering, I use this book here. It's the Fitzgerald uh, board review book. Our school was kind enough to get us a 6-month access to this material. So I started this back at the beginning of August, well, about the middle of August, when my summer semester was over with, in reviewing and preparing. So I'm feeling pretty good about this comprehensive test. I've been hitting above the required mark in most of my practice tests. I want to have a little better margin of success than what I'm getting on the practice test. So I'm going to spend the rest of this afternoon working on that. So I will spend all day Saturday, tomorrow, studying for this. Of course, I have some of the typical Saturday errands that we need to get done, but the bulk of the day is going to be spent studying, not doing any assignments for anything, just focusing on this. Unfortunately, Sunday, I have a shift in the ER, so that day, for the most part, is blown. I could sneak in a few Picmonic spaced repetition questions kind of in between, in and out during the day on my phone. But usually by the time I get home from a 12-hour shift, I'm not going to be in very good shape to spend studying. Then I've got all day Monday to study. Tuesday is my next clinical day. So from, I'll leave the house here at about 6:10 in the morning until 6 o'clock that evening. I will be involved in clinical, and then a few hours Wednesday morning, and at 10 o'clock Wednesday morning, take the exam. So that's kind of what today is looking like. The other thing I noted is that today, exactly 90 days from today, and right about this time of the day, I will be completely finished with my nurse practitioner program. I'm That means, yes, I am just 90 days away from graduation. And, this is kind of, I've noticed this in the last couple of days as I knew this day was approaching, that its weight has got a little heavier than what I thought it might be, especially when I'm working with patients in clinical, because now I realize that in 90 days, well, realistically more than 90 days, but in 90 days, the decisions I'm making in clinical with these patients are going to be the decisions I have to own. I'm not going to have a preceptor there to catch me. Yes, I will have resources. I will have a consulting psychiatrist that I can turn to, but it's not like I can make a mistake and the consequences aren't that big because somebody's going to fix it. The consequences are that big because nobody is going to fix it unless I do, and I would just frankly avoid having to fix a mistake. So 90 days out and it's all over. So that's a great feeling to have. I'm trying my best not to get a short timer's attitude in the ER because I know those days are numbered as well. But it's just really good to know it's only 90 days away. So big study day for me. That's kind of what this day looks like. If anything changes, I'll check in with you later today. Otherwise, I will talk to you again tomorrow.
Hey, so it's about 5 p.m. here on Saturday afternoon. So I'm about to wrap it up for today as far as studying is concerned. I find that after, 5-6 hours of it, I'm just shot. There's no retention, can't really think about it anymore. I got up about this morning and studied for maybe an hour and a half. Spent about an hour and a half running errands and then went right back into it. Mostly doing my spaced repetition on Picmonic, going through practice questions and also studying through the Fitzgerald information that I told you about in the other day. So that's going to be it for me today, about all I can handle. Tomorrow I have a 12-hour shift in the ER. I'll be leaving here around 10 after 6 to get that started. So there won't be a whole lot of NP school stuff going on tomorrow for me, other than that's incidental. I do try to think through things with my patients I find that I have in the ER, think through different diagnoses, medication things. Occasionally, I'll come to a conclusion. One of the docs or one of the PAs or NPs will do something different, and I usually try to have a conversation about their rationale and choice for that. And I'm blessed to have a great group of providers in my ER. They're more than willing to help me with that and talk to me about it. They've been extremely supportive of my journey here in NP school as well. Occasionally I can sneak in some Picmonic quizzes in between patients. At lunch, I usually don't do that. I only get 30 minutes for lunch anyway, and I just need to walk away from the whole ER scene for at least 30 minutes and try to recharge. I might try to do a few practice questions when I get home tomorrow. But either way, I'll check in with you tomorrow to see how that day's going, and we'll take it from there. Hope your studies are going well, and we'll talk to you again in the next one. Hey, so as predicted, not a whole lot of studying getting done today. I had patients this morning, then after lunch was moved here to triage. So it's been pretty much a revolving door, as is typical in the ER. I did get about 50 Picmonic questions done. I might try to do another 50 when I get home. I'll be leaving here about an hour and a half. Maybe not, though. Not sure that I'll be up to it. But anyway, so today's not a very productive day in terms of NP school stuff. But again, I do put some of that knowledge into play with the patients that I'm seeing here. I can much quickly anticipate orders that are going to be coming for different patients because I have a much more advanced knowledge of the pathophysiology behind their complaint. So looks like another patient just walked in. I got to grab them. I'll see you tomorrow.
All right, well, welcome back. It is early on Monday afternoon. As you can see, I survived the ER yesterday. Got up this morning, did a workout, and spent about an hour and a half going through some spaced repetition questions with Picmonic. The big priority today is studying for the comprehensive exam. This is really the last full day I have in order to do that. Tomorrow is a clinical day. I'll be out at the rural health clinic. Again, it takes me about an hour to get there, so that's just 2 hours of driving right there. There are some review videos that I'm going to watch / listen to going to and from. But for the most part, there's not going to be a lot of heavy studying being done tomorrow, simply because of the clinical and then the administrative requirements after that. And the one thing I want to emphasize here, and I was thinking about that this morning, because I was, sitting here trying to rationalize about whether I should go do my workout or whether I should just stay and knuckle down and keep studying for this big exam. And I opted to go do the workout. And here's why. It is so easy in nurse practitioner school to get caught up with everything. And I have found that when I'm not regularly working out, when I'm not watching my diet, I just get really miserable. And you have got to take the time to take care of yourself in nurse practitioner school. You guys, if you've seen any of my videos, that's been a theme in many of them, is that you have to take care of yourself. I do mostly resistance training. I have been doing intermittent fasting now for a little over a year. And what I found on that, I had been doing for a long time, the 4-hour eating window, 20 hours of fasting each day. But what I found is that in my resistance training, that wasn't really getting the results I wanted. So I have gone back to doing an 8-hour eating window and a 16-hour fasting window, and have modified my diet to be more high protein and lower carb. And I'm feeling a lot more, or I'm feeling a lot better doing that. I've noticed some gains in strength, some gains in lean muscle as well. I mean, that's not what you're here to hear about, but I just want you to know you have to make a conscious effort to take care of yourself while you're in nurse practitioner school. All right, so it's about 6:30 on Tuesday morning. I'm on the way to my rural health clinic for clinical day. This is much more of a typical clinical day than last Tuesday was. Normally I'll get 9.5 hours in the clinic here. Today we have about, I think it was 12 patients scheduled, one new patient. We use an hour for the new patients and 30 minutes for returning patients. So most of the patients today are returning patients. Some I have seen several times. I've actually been, if you've been watching any of these videos, I've actually been at this clinic doing my clinicals since January, and here it is September. So that's what's going on today. I still have to get all of my notes from the patients that I'll see today input into my school's system, and that's how they keep track of my hours and my clinical encounters. Plus my preceptor has to initial off on a sheet that I have to turn in every so often that has all my different hours on it as well. Tomorrow is the big comprehensive test. We have 2 days that we can take it. This is one day, this is the first day, and then tomorrow is the second day. Of course, I'm not taking it today because I'm going to be doing my clinical rotations today. I'm hoping that I hear from some of my classmates who do take it today, their thoughts on the test. They don't, of course, we don't share questions, we don't share answers or anything like that. Generally, we'll put it on GroupMe, which is our class has a GroupMe text. I guess it's a group that will share kind of areas of concentration and things like that. So that's helpful. Although there's not a lot I can do about it because I don't have much time to go back in and study. And I find that if I'm studying for a big exam a few hours before the exam, I really don't think it helps me that much. I think it's much better for me to just go ahead and get up tomorrow morning, go work out, maybe do some Picmonic spaced repetition quizzes, and then take the test and just get it over with. So that's what's going on today. I'll check back in with you after the day's finished and see if maybe there's something interesting that comes up today that I can share with you. Have a good one. All right, guys. Well, clinical day is over. We had 2 no-shows, but I did get to see another pediatric patient, and I've been really struggling, if you've watched any of the videos, really struggling with getting enough pediatric encounters this semester. So I was glad to get that done. So I'm headed home now, about an hour drive to get home. It's about 10 after 5 right now. I didn't realize it until lunch today when I was looking at my schedule that I have a mandatory Zoom call with my Capstone class this evening. The topic is a discussion about the ethical concerns in nursing research. So I've got that to look forward to this evening. That's unfortunate because I really wanted to use that time in order to get a few more practice questions in before the big test tomorrow. But well, it just means I'm going to have to be up a little bit later tonight and get that done, because I'm going to try to get in as much of preparation for that as I can. Because, you know, at the end of the day, it's an important test. If I weren't able to make the benchmark for passing this test tomorrow, I still have another chance to do it. Actually, I have 2 more chances in the semester to do it. It's a test that has to be passed because it is a requirement for the program to pass the test. But I really want to get it done tomorrow and just get it out of the way and be done with it, so that I can spend the rest of the time focused on doing the rest of the writing that has to be done for that class. Remember, thinking back to the screenshot I shared with you earlier in this video about the requirements for the capstone, there's 4 different chapters that have to be written, and I want to go ahead and try to knock out all 4 of those chapters in the next 2 weeks. So that's all behind me. It's all done. I don't have to worry about it anymore, and I can just focus on doing my clinicals, doing the best job I can in those clinicals, and preparing for the board exam. I will continue to study for that, not to the extent I am for this program required comprehensive exam, but I want to continue doing that right up to the point that I pass it. I don't want to be in any kind of situation where I don't feel like I'm prepared to get through the clinicals. So I'm going to drive home here, have a quick bite to eat, and then jump on this Zoom call with my class, and then hit the books again. And maybe I'll check in with you a little bit after that to talk to you about how the Zoom call went. All right, talk to you soon. All right, so I have finished my Zoom call for the class. It took about 45 minutes. And I am going to probably defer inputting my patients until tomorrow. I actually have 48 hours to do it. I am going to do it tomorrow because later tomorrow afternoon, after I take my exam, then I'm going to have to head down to the government hospital that I'm working in to prepare my patients for the next day. So next week, and I guess this kind of brings us to the input part. I just want to mention that our program requires you to do some demographic information for each patient. Of course, you're not putting in names or dates of birth, nothing that would identify the person, no personal data. And then we have to write a SOAP note for each of the patients that we've seen. If you're unfamiliar with that, or you want to get an idea of what I'm writing, if you're a member of our community, you can go to that community share drive and download a copy and a template of how to do those SOAP notes. If you're not a member of the community, yeah, by all means, you can join. All you got to do is just go to the link that's in the description or that's in the comments, and that will get you connected to that. So I guess that kind of brings us full circle here. I started this this video last Tuesday to give you kind of a glimpse into my week. And now here we are at the end of the following Tuesday. This coming week is going to look very, very similar to what I just showed you over the last week. The only difference is I have a dinner to go to on Wednesday night that is sponsored by one of the pharmaceutical companies. I've been to several of these. My preceptor makes sure that I get invited to these things. They have been tremendously powerful in terms of understanding how some of these drugs work, tremendously powerful in terms of networking, especially here that I'm like 86 days away from graduating. Job searching is a big priority right now, and it's something that I'm actively engaged with each week. So networking is very powerful. And then the rest of the week will be pretty much like I just showed you. So, hey, thanks for sticking with me. I know this is a little bit longer video. I hope you got something out of it. If you have any questions at all about anything that I've talked about in this video, just go ahead and put them in the comments. If you've been with me for any length of time, you know I answer all of the comments and welcome questions. I want you guys to learn from this, to kind of experience what I'm going through so you're prepared when you go through it as well. If you think about it, we'd love to have you subscribe to the channel and get updates. I try to do a video about every other week. This semester has been pretty busy. Probably the next couple of weeks are going to be busy as I try to get all of this writing out of the way. But after that, more. And I might post a few more videos as we get closer actually to graduation and what that's all about and involved with as well. So thanks again for watching, and I appreciate your attention to this. Looking forward to hearing from you, looking forward to your questions, and I'll see you in the next video.